In Japanese, there are three main writing systems that we use: Hiragana, Katakana, and Kanji. And in this video, we'll discuss about the two original writing systems of Japanese: Hiragana and Katakana. Hiragana is usually used in general vocabularies and words, and these words originated from mother tongue Japanese. And Hiragana is also used in most times in Japanese people's name. So let's just jump right into it. So the vowels, like in English, it consists of your usual A, I, U, E, and O. And the only differences are the pronunciation and obviously their shape. So here, 5 vowels of Japanese: A, A, I, I, U, U, E, O, O. And if you notice, it is a little bit abrupt, the pronunciation. Unlike English, where you would pronounce it as the elongated version, like A, I, U, E, O. In Japanese, it abruptly stops at one point: A, I, U, E, O. And that will apply on all the kana, not only the first 5 vowels. It also will apply on both hiragana and katakana. And this might seem a little bit weird, but the next one is not going to be B, so we're not going to say ba, bi, bu, be, and bo, but instead it's going to be K, ka, ki, ku, ke, and ko. And trust me, we'll get to B eventually. Alright, so here are the K category: ka, ka, ki, ki, ku, ku, ke, ke, ko, ko. Simple enough. Let's continue to S. And at this point you might be thinking, why is it that we have gone from A to K to S? Well, it's just how Japanese works, I guess. So yeah, let's just go to S. Sa, sa, shi, shi, su, su, se, se, so, so. Now, there's one point that I want to make here, that shi, the second letter, shi, you don't pronounce it or write it as si, like S and I. You pronounce it and write it as shi, S-H-I. And the pronunciation is just like she in English, like she is a girl, like that. And that's the only point that I want to make. It's very important that you didn't write it as si, but as she. Alright, so now we are going to go to learn the T category. Alright. Ta, ta, chi, chi, zi, zi, te, te, to, to. Now, in this category, there are 2 characters that seems a little bit odd. Now, the first one is chi. Now, in Japanese, there are no T, like T-I. There actually is T-I, like T, but it is a very advanced technique. Like you need to combine what we call a yo-on, but we will not discuss that here because it's a little bit advanced reading. But for now, you can just assume that T doesn't exist, and we actually never use T, like almost never use T in Japanese. So you would say it as chi, and that also applies with tsu. So for now, let's just assume that it doesn't exist and just say tsu. Alright, let's put what we have learned into use, and let's do a let's read, or a yomimashou. And let's try reading these words. So there are going to be small hiragana on top of these kanji, and these hiragana are called furigana. So just read them as usual, and I'll present to you the correct answer later. Alright, so the first one, I'll give you some time. Alright, so this is akai, akai, which means red, the color red in Japanese. Alright, the second one, alright, this one says suki, suki, which means to like something in Japanese. And the next one, alright, this one says okashi, okashi, which means sweets in Japanese. And it's okay if you didn't get it, you are just beginning to learn anyway. So meanwhile, why not we continue to the next letters. Next, we have N, and this is pretty straightforward. Na, na, ni, ni, nu, nu, ne, ne, no, no. That's it. Alright, and then we arrive at the H category. Ha, ha, hi, hi, fu, fu, he, he, ho, ho. You might already know this special guest here, the third one, fu. Now, you write fu as fu, like fu, but you don't read it as fu. I mean, you could read it as fu, but it is like the reading is actually in the middle of the category name and the word itself. So the word itself says fu, right, with F, but the category is H. So you will combine H and F and say it like in the middle of H and F. So like fu. As you can hear, I don't say too much of the H like hu, but I also don't say too much of the F, so it sounds like fu. So I sense like fu, like you blow the air a little bit, like fu. But if you can make this sound like in the beginning, it's fine because it takes time to get used to these kind of sounds in Japanese. So for now, if you cannot make this fu sound, you can just say fu, but don't say hu, because hu sounds like who are you like that. Yeah, so just say fu if you cannot say fu. Now we arrive at M, and in M there's not much that is special, but there is something special in M. Alright, so I'll read it for you. Ma, ma, mi, mi, mu, mu, me, me, mo, mo. Now, seems ordinary enough, right? Now, where's the special thing here? Now, the special thing is, if you look at me, and if you remember the one that we've already go over through, which is nu, it looks pretty similar, don't you think? Yeah, so me and nu is really similar, their appearances. And the only difference is that me doesn't have that curly thing, like that curly tail that nu has. And that's the only thing that is different. And it's sometimes very hard to notice if it is in the middle of a very big sentence. So you've gotta spot it like with an eagle eye or something like that. But yeah, you need to read a lot of Japanese so that you can get used to the differences between me and nu. Alright, and now we arrive at our second let's read, or yomimasho. Now that we have more letters under our belt, yeah, let's do it. So the first word is this one. Alright, so you probably noticed it. This is one of the most famous word in Japanese. Nani, which means what. Next. Alright, it is natsu, which means summer. And next, it is fune, or if you cannot say the fu sound, you can say it as fune, which means ship. And next, we have a bonus word. See if you can read this. Alright, it is anata, which means you. Alright, if you can read all of them, congrats! But if you still get them wrong, no worries, it is part of the learning process. And let's continue to our next ones. Now, the next one is pretty special, but it's not that kind of special that makes it harder, but it's the special that makes it easier. Now, what's the special thing? It only has 3 letters. Ya, yu, yo. So it's the Y category, and it's that simple. It's just ya, you, yo. There's nothing more. Nothing less, nothing more. That's it. And now we have R, our last 5 letters category. And okay, let's read first. So ra, di, ru, de, ro. Now, there are 2 points that I want to mention here. The first one is the difference between ru and ro. Now, these differences you have seen a lot in Hiragana, especially that ru and ro is very similar, and that the differences is only that ru have that little curly thing at the bottom, and ro just looks like a regular 3, the number 3. And that's the first point that I want to mention. And also, these similarities you'll see a lot also in Katakana, but in Hiragana too. And the second point is that how I pronounced it. I pronounced it ra, ri, ru, de, ro. And if you notice, it sounds not like R, but not like D too. So it's like in the middle of R and D. So I don't pronounce it like the rhotic R, like ra, ri, ru, re, ro. Nor do I pronounce it as D, because D has its own words, like da, di, do, de, do. But I pronounce it in the middle. So da, ri, ru, de, ro. Now, again, this will take time in getting used to, and if you are not used to it, you can just say ra, ri, ru, re, ro, a less rhotic R. Alright, that's for R. And we get into our last 3 hiragana, and this doesn't really have a category, so I'm just going to consider it as miscellaneous. But that doesn't mean that they are unimportant, it's just they are uncategorized. So yeah, So the three of them are wa, wa, wo, wo, mm. And yeah, you heard me right. The last one is not n. You don't say n, but you say it. You will read it as n in like words, but when it is a standalone thing, you read it as the sound. And that's it. That's for all the hiragana. And after this, we'll look at the next let's read section. That's it for hiragana, and you did amazing. Now let's take all that we have learned and do another let's read. Yomimashou. Hi, okay, the first one. Now there are no kanji for this one, so you can just read the hiragana. Okay, it is yaru, yaru, which means to do something. Next. Alright, it is wakaru, wakaru, which means to understand something. And next one. Right, it is tenki, tenki. Now, you probably heard that I say tenki, not tenki. Why is that? Because it is a part of a reading technique that I will not discuss it here, but there's a reading technique in some cases that n will be read as ng, but that's in a future lesson. That's a reading technique. That's all for hiraga. Wait, there's still one thing that I need to tell you before you can go to the realm of katakana. That is, or those are dakuon and handakuon. Yeah, there's actually two things, sorry. It basically means voiced consonants. And first, let's take a look at dakuon. Now, what gets affected by it and how it affects the letters. So, let's look at this. When you attach dakuon, K becomes G, S is Z, T is D, and the dakuon version of H is B. This little apostrophe is what we call dakuten. Now, in the dakuten, the ten simply means mark. And if you attach dakuten into a regular word, for example like ka, it becomes dakuon, which is the sound. On in Japanese means sound. And ka, the dakuon version, becomes ga. Same as S, but S, there's something special. Remember that she that we talked about previously? Yeah, that she is a little bit of a pain in the ass. And instead of za, zi, zu, ze, zo, that she becomes G. J-I. Not Z-I, but J-I. So it's not za, zi, zu, ze, zo. It's going to be za, ji, zu, ze, zo. The rest are similar. The rest are same, but only that she becomes G. And in T, it's also not da, di, do, de, do. Remember that those two pesky little guys, chi and zi, they are also different. Now, this is a little bit more complex than the she version, because chi and zi, when you add that dakuten into those two letters, it becomes two letters that is very rarely used in Japanese. So let's go with chi first. Now in chi, if you add dakuten, it becomes G. And this G, compared to the other G, is very rarely used. It will be used in some kanji, like for example, chijikomaru. It will be used there, but it's very rarely used. So you might as well, for now, think that it doesn't exist, right? So the G version where chi is added with dakuten is non-existent. And this also applies to zu. In zi, it becomes zu when attached with the dakuten. And also, this zi, compared to the previous zu, is less used. And it will be used in some kanji, for example, like tsuzukeru, which means to continue. Tsuzukeru. In that kanji, it will be used, but it's very rarely used. and you might as well also think this kanji as non-existent. And meanwhile, handaku-on, so that's called for daku-on, and handaku-on only affects the H category. Now, the H category in daku-on, the H becomes B. So ha, hi, hu, he, ho becomes ba, bi, bu, be, bo. In handaku-on, han means half voice consonant. And in handaku-on, the ha becomes pa. In the letter ha, you can see the above there, you can see a little bit of circle, and that's called handakuten, the mark of the half voice consonant. And that's it for Hiragana. Now you can traverse the realm of Katakana. Good luck.
Katakana is used to name objects that are not covered by kanji or hiragana. It is similar to italics in English that is used to write foreign words or names in Japanese. Each katakana written either as a vowel, a, I, U, e, and o, or a consonant followed by a vowel such as ka, ki, ku, ke, and ko, or n. The first word group that we will cover is the basic vowels. A, I, U, E, O. And the next word group consists of the consonant K with the vowels mentioned above. Ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. And the next word group after the consonant K is S, following the same format. Sa, shi, su, se, so. Then the next word group after the consonant S is T. Ta, chi, su, te, to. And as same as hiragana, the katakana chi and su is grouped together with the T group. In katakana, we use a short line to extend the vowel of a sentence, so the word ea is pronounced ea instead of ea. The consonant double mark. In katakana, we use a small su to double a consonant in a sentence, so the word sweeter becomes sweeter. Let's use what we learned to make foreign words in Japanese. The first word is air, which means air. The second word, tacos, means tacos. And the last word, sweeter, means the messaging app Twitter. Then let's move on to the next word group, which is N. Na, ni, nu, ne, no. And the next word group after that is the H word group. Ha, he, fu, he, ho. It's the same as Hiragana, the word fu is grouped alongside the H word group. Then the group after the H word group is M. Ma, mi, mu, me, mo. Dakuten and Handakuten in Katakana. The way we use Dakuten and Handakuten is similar to the way Hiragana uses Dakuten and Handakuten to change the pronunciation of a consonant, and when using Katakana we can use Dakuten of U and a small vowel sound to make a V sound. For example, this word is pronounced va. Let's use what we learned to make foreign words in Japanese. Anime. Now this word may feel like it's a native word of Japanese, but anime is an abbreviation of the word animation. And the second word is data. And remember, when using katakana, it's important to write katakana based on how the foreign word is pronounced, not the way it is spelled. So instead of writing data, we use data. And next we will discuss the last three word groups. With Y word group being the first, Y word group is similar to Hiragana where it is only 3 words. Ya, you, and yo. And next we have the R word group. Ra, we, ru, re, and ro. And then we have the last word group, which is uncategorized. Wa, wo, and n. In katakana, we use a small version of a letter to make a trailing sound in Japanese. For example, we use G together with a small yo to make a ba-jon sound. Let's use what we learned to make foreign words in Japanese. The first word, reporto, means report. The second word, happy, means happy. The third word, balloon, means balloon. And the fourth word, bajon, means person. And the last word, aircon, means air conditioner. Now that was a lot. Don't worry about remembering it all on the first time. Here are some resources that will be useful when you are learning Japanese. And we recommend using Anki flashcards to learn Hiragana and Katakana.